eternal, infinite, perfect, divine spirit. That is your true nature. In complete equality, in complete union and oneness, your true self has always been and will always be. It's not even possible to open the mind enough in any way to embrace the infiniteness and perfection of your divine self. If you consider what is known to each beloved in the belief of separation, it stops and ends mostly with this birth and the coming of this death. And this birth into this earth plane is a dot in your existence. To be infinite, to live eternally, nothing ever started. You have always been, because creation has always been. Taking away time, taking away limitation that comes with time, you're free. There is a prison that's built out of time that is for the purpose of limitation. If you believe there are 24 hours in a day, if you believe that you are such and such an age, if you believe that the tree is 100 years old, it holds you in limitation. It isn't bad or evil, it just holds you in a mistaken identity of time, where everyone that is looked at is believed to be the age that their body shows. And yet, how many spirits are born, are incarnated into this lifetime that have lived 1,000 lives and enters with that identity already thousands of years old within time. And then the next being born can be here for the first time, and yet they look the same age. It means nothing. Each beloved is here to remember. That is what they enter into a body for, because they believe that just like everyone, that there is limitation and there is time. But in the spiritual journey, as you open to the limitlessness without time, without restriction, everything has a completely new purpose, a new understanding of your journey. That this particular journey of this lifetime is the one that is holding the possibility for each one who says yes to remember completely, to embrace completely your divine spirit, your limitlessness, eternal, infinite, divine spirit. Perfect. To continue in resting. That there's nothing for you to do to become that divine spirit. Accepting, yes, and rejecting the lies of the false identity. But you are already that divine spirit, and it can be accepted. Now, in every moment. So in this moment, in the willingness of love itself, the willingness to affirm that there is a life force that we join with, and this life force is the life force of God, and within this we live and move and breathe as one, even while still being in what looks like a separate body, united through the heart, through the spirit, and one mind, all love. This universe is all love. And every element of creation is one in that love. The sanctuary is all love. Nothing else exists. Offering peace and harmony, and being peace and harmony moment to moment, as the heart says yes. In the gentle journey home, this hymn is to acknowledge the intention and that it's guaranteed. 1 minute to midnight, and the sky is turning black. 1 minute to midnight, and there's no turning back. I'm going home, I'm going home, I'm going home to stay. 1 minute to midnight, and my train is pulling in. 1 minute to midnight, and my new life will begin. Love calls me home, love calls me home, love calls me home for good. 1 minute to midnight, and the bells begin to chime. 1 minute to midnight, and they tell me that it's time to turn toward the light, to turn toward the light, to turn toward the light of my home. 1 minute to midnight, as I bandage up my heart. 1 minute to midnight, as I let the healing start. I will receive, I will receive, I will receive my welcome home. There is a within this hymn, there is the energy of anticipation of the promise. I am coming home, and I will receive my welcome home. And to truly hold that in your heart, that you're always being welcomed and encouraged and led. This hymn was a hymn that for me, it's about forgiveness and the wanting of the truth of forgiveness, to let go of the past. And every time I would sing this hymn with others or alone, I would cry because I wanted it so much. And that place within that wanting is it's not a place of disappointment or lamenting because I want it so much. It's the birth of the hope that it's true, the trust that it's true, and the letting loose of the yearning that has been there for lifetime after lifetime. Because everyone carries that longing, that wanting to return home. And that energy of that yearning, that wanting, is an energy that really serves the journey. It serves because it keeps opening your heart and lets you feel how you are so aware deep within that this is the way, that this is the purpose, and that you truly want to remember and come home. My Father, I ask that you hear my prayer as I ask to know the truth of forgiveness. I ask not only for me, but for all humanity. My Father, when you bless, I ask that you also open the door to forgiveness, that all beloveds be released from the belief of limitation and separation. The boat that sails on the sea also sails in my heart, and I ask for the blessings and the grace of all those who walked before me. Meu Pai, peço que vos me ouça, para eu pedir o perdão. Eu peço não só para mim, os meus irmãos. Meu Pai, quando for perdoar, perdoa como e convém. Eu peço que vos nos perdoe, como perdoou em Belém. A barca que quer ir no mar, Corre no meu coração aquele que aqui batiza, batizou no Rio de Jordão. I ask that you hear me. Let your heart call. We add to ourselves or detract. Every time you open your mouth and let a sound out, you alert the prey. And who is not hunting because of some hunger? What you seek may run in different ways, or people you know may begin to snarl within when they see you coming. We add to ourselves or detract. Whenever we speak, our words turn into an entity and a magnetic field someone has to reckon with. I have found it best to be on good terms with as much as one can, controlling the notes from the flute, from the body that can rise. Yes, we add to ourselves or detract in some ways with each movement. I have increased my worth so much, a treasury I have become, that I hope you loot. The words that Hafiz uses of either adding or detracting, it seems that in the spiritual journey, it is one of the deepest leaps of faith to actually question what is being said or why. Because the ego has no filter, really, other than a socially conscious, not really conscious, but a socially correct way of speaking or like that. But the ego has no concern over the words either being a detraction or an asset. The ego is totally geared to getting. So the detraction is pretty easy to recognize who's running the show when there's a detraction and when it's an added element of your grace. To question thoughts is not the way of the world. To question what you're going to speak about or whatever is not the way of the world. There's no questioning of, what is this for? What are these words for? What do I want to come of these words? And that's what Hafiz is speaking to. What you seek may run in different ways, or people you know may begin to snarl within when they see you coming. That is his way of saying there is a cause and effect for what you offer. And you have this exquisite choice that has opened to everyone in the spiritual journey. It's the realization of choice. I can choose love, or I can choose the ego. And the questioning helps to recognize what you're choosing. Because it isn't an easy shift. We as humanity, we're all convinced that we are who we are, and that we developed and should either get kudos for the good work we did or kind of get filtered out for having a lot of work still to do. But that's not the way of love. The way of love is the realization that that's all there is. There's nothing else to compete with. There's nothing else to fight with. There's only love. And the shift out of the ego identity, one of the aspects of that is with words and thoughts. And when we question our words, it helps us to heal so much quicker, because we're waking up when we question the words that we use. It's a more awake place. To not question is more of the trance, more of a familiar place that you don't have to be present. But when you question your thoughts and what you want to say, it's a much more awake place, because you have to be more present in the moment to ask the question. The blessing of the questions is that it opens the door to the Holy Spirit, and it helps with guidance, because it's part of guidance to ask the questions. But it also brings, when you ask the questions, it also brings you to having to listen to the answer. And sometimes the patience diminishes much more quickly than the questions that could be asked. It takes great patience to ask the questions. It really does. Because when you ask the question, it changes the trajectory of your intention, possibly, because you're asking the question of is this helpful? What am I offering? And it may not take you where you originally thought you were going to go. So then the ego says, I think we should avoid these questions. It becomes much easier to walk through the world just in our normal stuff than it does to have to ask a question before speaking. But this is a place of healing. It truly is. And eventually the questions come so quickly and so cleanly that they're answered before you even really have them. You already are aware of whether what you were going to say is helpful, because the answer is already there. And you start being guided all the time, moment to moment. And in that guidance, you can be assured that everything that you have intention with is the most helpful. It's the most helpful. And it's the quickest route with guidance. Truly is. It cuts through the mustard. It cuts through everything, and it takes you quickly into love. Because the very nature of your asking the question is like a Hafiz poem that says, I do not want to look upon anything in this world without seeing the truth of my beloved. That's the question. That's what the questions are for. I don't want to offer anything to anyone without offering the truth of love as deeply as I can. And I don't want to look on anyone without seeing the truth of my beloved. So I'm asking the questions from within. And I am confident in the answers, because the healing is guaranteed, and the happiness of God, of spirit, is overjoyed to serve you in helping you find your way through the questioning. It's such a beautiful relationship. It is the most powerful, intimate relationship there could ever be. Truly. You have been with your guides for lifetime after lifetime, not always being aware that they were there. Most of us probably didn't have a clue. I saw enough lifetimes that I was pretty sure I didn't have a clue. And yet, when you open that door to the guidance, you're meeting a friend that has been with you, has cared for you, has loved you, has served you. And there may be many guides. It's not limited to one, but at least one. And it's all love. There is nothing else that they want to offer you. They have no other agenda. None at all. So let your guide help you ask the questions. And recognize that you are either always detracting from yourself or bringing blessings. And it's much easier to live with blessings than to live with disturbance, worry, whatever it is. I have found it best to be on good terms with as much as one can, controlling the notes from the flute, from the body that can rise, controlling the notes from the flute, from the body. So the flute being you, being the instrument of love. It's a control. Do I really need to say this? Is it really going to be helpful for the beloved that I'm saying this to? Because that would be the only reason to say it. That becomes an upside down shift. Because the ego's motive is for the self. The ego's motive is completely for the self. There's no other purpose. It can look like helpfulness, but underneath the ego's purpose, even in making it look like helpfulness, is I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be seen better. And that's what I'm going to get. And that has no value. You are already everything. So when you're offering love, everything that you say is for that purpose. You already are and have everything. And when it comes from that awareness or that acceptance, then you can really rest in that offering of love, because there's nothing needing to get. And it's the generosity of the heart begins to expand in such a faster way because you're offering your love. I wrote down this prayer. Spirit am I, holy child of God, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive and free to offer love. Spirit am I. That is your heart. Free and whole, free of all limits. So we can't, in the use of the mind, we really cannot conceptualize to be free of all limits. For that, one of the elements that is being called to be surrendered is the identity of being separate and limited by the body. To use the body as the holy instrument of love, and yet not identified as this. It's a deep learning of love. Yes, we add to ourselves or detract with each moment. Each moment. There is a reason why it always, in the spiritual journey, everyone is always in some ways walking slowly. There are elements that help everything go faster, but at the same time, it is walking slowly because it's so easy to get lost. And there's a teaching that says, do not forget how little you have learned. Now that sounds almost oppressive. Don't forget how little you have learned. It's almost like a teacher in school going, you didn't learn so much, kiddo. So what is that? Do not forget how little you have learned and how much you can learn now. So this prayer is speaking to the ego, through the ego. Because the ego, the spiritual ego, wants to succeed, wants to get it, wants to get the gold star at the end of the road. And spirit in this teaching is saying, it will be most helpful for you if you recognize how much there is still to learn and not get hooked on what you already know, because you'll get stuck there. You'll just get stuck. The ego will say, hey, look at me, and show and tell, and it'll be the spiritual ego that is subtly taking its victory lap. So God cautions, spirit cautions and says, you haven't learned that much because you have the whole universe to enter with and become one with. But you can learn so much now. Don't stop. But just move slowly. and let the speed of the healing come from the divine. And it will. It will. I remember in the journey of remembering, I remember thinking this simple thought that's, okay, so if you wake up, that means you don't wear glasses anymore. And this was just this personal thought running in the mind to think I knew something. And in that instant of that thought, I went downhill. I'm never going to see enough to be without glasses. And then I heard this laughter that said, well, you know, if the Dalai Lama can wear glasses, so can I. And that's good enough for me. I don't care whether it's waking up or whether it's being the servant of love. I just want to remember and embrace love. But that's how tricky the ego is, to take something like glasses and make it a stumbling block of limitation. That's how insane the ego is. That God would restrict anyone because of a physical limitation when the heart wants to remember. No, there's no limitation. Not glasses, not your ability to memorize teachings. There's no limitation. It means nothing. It's your heart's desire and your willingness to follow. And the rest is taken care of. In stillness, stillness is one of the elements that is the most helpful and necessary, and sometimes the most feared. Because when you are with yourself in stillness, you're with yourself in stillness, and you meet yourself in that intimate place with the truth of God. You start the coming home to meet yourself. And the deeper you go, the more you realize where home is. Home is within and in the entire universe. There's no difference. But within is the friend, the heart of God, the truth of you, one. And it's in the stillness. In stillness, quiet, all questions are answered in that beautiful place. And every perceived problem can be resolved within the quiet. Because you don't go to the world to resolve problems. You come to the heart, you come into the quiet stillness within. And there, the spirit of love can help and guide to eliminate what seems to be a problem, remembering that there really is no problem. The problem is the belief in limitation and separation. But when you go within in that stillness and that quiet, what you have perceived as a problem will be answered, because you want the help and you want the truth. You want what is most helpful. So it will be answered in that way. Every perceived problem resolved. In conflict, there can be no solution and no resolution. It will always be a disturbance. Everyone has gone through the problem-solving ways of the world, which is usually on the other hand, on the other hand, on the other hand, on the other hand. And it will be a temporary solution which will not bring peace, except for maybe just a little bit where the mind says, all right, I did this, I figured this out, I'm in charge. And for that little bit, you have that sense of satisfaction. But the deep peace is when you realize there is no problem. That the resolution is in the peace of your heart that realizes I'm making something up. I'm giving something some meaning in my mind that says I'm in a struggle. But in the stillness, in the quiet, the resolution comes. Because the answer is always going to come from the truth, not from how the world sees it to figure it out. Imagine that you would be invited to 2 different gatherings on the same night, and you don't know what to do. And you start thinking about it. Well, let's see, this gathering is going to have these people, and I really like these people, and this gathering is going to be probably a little quieter, I kind of like that. But this one has some friends that I haven't seen for a while, so maybe I'll go to that one. No, but this one is, so how is this problem going to be solved? Because it's all these questions, and this way is saying it's about me. It's for what I want. It's for what I will get. When you go into the stillness, into that quiet, and you surrender and ask, what's most helpful here? I don't know. You will be guided to be where it is most helpful for you to be, where you will serve love in the deepest way. And the Holy Spirit is aware of where it would be helpful for you to be. So that will be where you will be directed to. And it has nothing to do with who's there or what the party looks like or what the gathering looks like. It's where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Who would you have me speak to? I'm here to serve. I'm here to be truly helpful. And I don't know the way except if you show me. The way of making that decision of which gathering to go to by the ego standards is familiar, and it's to get pleasure, it's to get the satisfaction of what I'm going to get. But the heart is holding an emptiness when you make the decision in that way and you go to the gathering where you're going to have the most fun in that way. the heart's empty because the heart isn't serving. And there is a belief that the heart doesn't have, that there's something to get. And then when you go to the gathering with the belief that there is something to get, everything is attention because it's personal. And many times, I certainly carried this in the past, after you go, then you also can worry about whether you were received well, if you were liked, if you pleased everyone with your appearance. But it's all for the getting again. And that's where the fear comes in. So this teaching is just saying, if you ask, it will be such a blessing for you. It will be that you will realize that you are where you're best serving, and you will feel the love in that because that is your intention to serve. That doesn't mean that you're swooping into a gathering and saying, I'm here to save everybody because I'm in service. Now you come in quietness of love, and the Holy Spirit is still showing you what's most helpful. And your heart keeps expanding and opening. And you find the way of love in all of the asking. And it becomes the ease of your journey. God placed in the mind the call to joy. This call is so strong that the ego always dissolves at its sound. The call to joy, that was the asking in the silent, quiet space. Where can I serve, and where would you want me to be, and how would you want me to get there? And then in that, the call to joy resonates because your love is vibrating in your offering. And that's all that there is. That ease, that peace, that perfection. Attempt to solve no problems in the ego world. Bring your problems to the gentle healing of truth. That's all that's going on, making that choice. I can believe what I think I know and make up my own mind with the ego, because I'm not really making up my own mind, it's the ego that's making it. Or I can listen to that quiet voice within and let myself be led. And feel the joy of that divine service easily and effortlessly. It is a learning for sure, because it is not what anyone was taught in this world. But the service of love. Let yourself feel the beauty of your heart expanding as you offer that love. It's the joy that you've been waiting for. In every beloved, there is old guilt, and everybody carries it around with them. Everybody knows this feeling. The feeling is It doesn't matter where I'm sitting. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. There is this disturbance, this under the radar disturbance that's kind of don't know if there's an impending doom or some sense of just disturbance. That is the guilt and the shame from lifetimes. And as you start opening to the Holy Spirit and letting the Holy Spirit teach you the ways of love and expanding your heart, all of that underlying pain and disturbance starts disappearing, because you're not willing anymore to listen to that old should voice, and also the wanting to get. Because when you want to get, you're saying to God, there isn't enough, and I'm going to get mine before somebody else does. And you push the door closed of God. But as you keep saying yes and expanding and serving, all the guilt, all the shame from the past lives and everything else starts to just fade away, because you're forgiving all of those lies and saying, yes, I'm following. I'm following in the name of love. The peace of God is your one goal, the aim of all your living here, the end that you seek, and your purpose and your function and your life. In that prayer is the whole spiritual journey. It's the acknowledgement and the acknowledgement of just, I'm here to learn to love. I'm here to open my heart. I'm here to let the mind be healed of all of its insaneness. I'm here. Show me the way. I will follow. I will be still and listen and heal.